My name is Benjamin Farish, and for my third round of placement, I attended Padua College in Mornington. For this critical reflection, I'll be focusing on a Year 8 PE practical class that I took. In this particular lesson, I taught the students the fundamentals of the sport of badminton, ran through some minor games, and a round robin at the end of the lesson. The content descriptor that I'll be focusing on in this reflection is to demonstrate and explain how the elements of effort, space, time, objects, and people can enhance performance. This is in the level 7 and 8 movement and physical activity category, which is below understanding movement. The practical class ran for a total duration of 110 minutes. I started off the lesson with a couple of minor games to get the students warmed up and engaged. I chose to run Hunger Games, which is a large-scale version of dodgeball and bench ball. I decided to implement these games as they are very inclusive and don't require a large amount of skill to partake in. After completing the warm-up games, I directed the students to take a badminton racket and form a U shape around me. I then went through the fundamentals of badminton, which forehands, backhands, and serving techniques. I ensured all students knew the difference between each shot and what the correct technique was before I progressed to the next activity. The explanation of the varying shots in badminton took roughly 10 minutes. Once I was sure that all the students had adequate knowledge about the sport and the techniques required, I progressed into the next activity. The activity required students to hit a shuttle up and down on their own using both a forehand and backhand technique. This activity focused on an elaboration of the content descriptor, which I previously mentioned, which is demonstrating an understanding of how to adjust the angle of release of an object and how this will affect the height and distance of flight. Many of the students in this class struggled with the fundamentals of the sport, as they hadn't really had any past experiences with racket sports. So they would have found it difficult and quite challenging if I decided to go straight into a big game after the warm-up activities. The activities that focus purely on the basic skills of badminton, hitting in pairs and a serving activity, allowed the students to practice and build their confidence before progressing into a competitive round robin. These activities took place in pairs. I directed the students to work with a partner, as I believe in the social development theory, where Vygotsky was the key contributor. This theory believes that cognition is the final product of socialization and social behavior. Pairing up the low-ordered students with the high-ordered thinking students brought up the average skill level of the students, which as a result improved the overall standard of the class. It also allowed me to walk around the court and assess every student individually, provide help and assist some students if their technique needed some adjustments. My supervising teacher commented on how I walked around and made sure I connected with every single student individually. She said this would not only help me assess students' abilities and techniques, but create a positive relationship with all the students and make them feel comfortable around me. She also raised the importance of using the whistle to my advantage and ensuring the class gathered close to me when I was explaining rules or techniques to ensure I'm not yelling at the class. She also made the point that I need to question the students more to ensure they understand what I'm saying. She raised the point that I could have put the learning intentions on a whiteboard, which would have helped the low-order thinking students, as they would have understood why I made progressions and didn't just go straight into a competitive game after the warm-up. I ended the lesson with a round robin, which met the goals of the higher-order thinking students and those who were skilled in the sport of badminton, as it allowed them to competitively compete and challenge each other. It also allowed me to observe the class and see what students would need extra help and guidance in the next lesson. Due to the cohort of the students in this Year 8 Health and PE class, it was vital that I use explicit teaching cues. There was around 3 to 4 male students who had behavioural issues, so it was crucial that I use visual demonstrations and provided straightforward instructions to ensure they stayed on task and did not become restless and disruptive. If these students did not understand the instructions provided, they would become a distraction and result in partaking in inappropriate behaviour. This was challenging. My supervising teacher said that I need to know the school's behavioural management policy to ensure I can remove them from the class if need be, and to ensure the rest of the class has the opportunity to learn and get involved without being judged. 2 students out of the group of 4 were incredibly disrespectful. My supervising teacher mentioned that it is vital that I build relationships with all of my students, but in particular students with behavioural management issues, as they will be more likely to cooperate and become engaged in my classes if I can connect with them on a personal level. This lesson addressed both the content descriptor and the elaboration, as by the end of the lesson, students had demonstrated and explained how the elements of effort, space, time, objects and people can enhance or inhibit performance. I constantly stopped and questioned the class throughout the activities in round robin to ensure they were developing their knowledge on this content descriptor. Overall, the feedback I received from both the students and supervising teacher, it can be concluded that the lesson was an engaging and successful practical class. However, adjustments still need to be made to improve my future practice as a health and physical education teacher. Thank you.